right, so I just started the recording. Okay, all right. So welcome, Nick Shelton. Is that okay? Should I say that? I'm going to cut this out again. Is it okay if I say your whole name?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, all right.
Not on a watch list or a wanted list or anything.
Then we will do this. I will cut that out. Okay. So hello, Nick Shelton. Brought you here today to talk about some issues and some piece of the balance puzzle that I think is very important, and that is sleep. So if anybody watched a little bit of the video today from the Intentional Vet, we talked a little bit about some sleep, and I wanted to bring on one of my good friends, Nick Shelton, to talk about his routine and talk about some other tips that are important to getting a good night's sleep. So yeah, I guess, first of all, welcome to the Intentional Vet video. This is the first one where I brought on another person, and I think it's important because I would like to have the Intentional Vet more of a community thing and not so much as an individual Shane Barone ego play. So yeah, I just wanted to bring you on. So do you want to make any intro of who you are and a little bit about you?
I'm Nick Shelton. I am a Air Force veteran and pretty much just a regular guy.
Regular guy. That's a that's a good way to put it. I can't wait to have you on more because you are the furthest thing from a regular guy that I know. So I'm very excited to have you on. And yeah, you're definitely a veteran, a very good friend of mine. We've been friends for a few years now, met back at one of our fun events together in Sauberman back in Las Vegas. And yeah, I definitely value you as a friend and as a confidant in many areas of my life. So I'm Shane Barone. I'm starting this Intentional Vet community up where I'm trying to get other like-minded veterans to come together, share stories, look at becoming a more elite, balanced individual. And this is just the start of like creating that community. So I'm also a veteran. I was in the Army, and I'm a father, and I'm a business owner. I'm a employee, all sorts of things. So yeah, a little bit about me. So today, just to get started, I had a pretty good training session, and for the past few days, I've been extremely exhausted, and my training and my physical activity levels have not been what I wanted them to be. And I could just tell that my body was getting, I was getting sore. I was getting very tired, very fatigued. And I really made an intent on trying to get a better sleep schedule and to make sure that I have a good sleep fitness or wellness, I would say. And I think it's really important to talk about this because for me and a lot of other guys and girls out there, I think that we don't really put a lot of emphasis into our sleep wellness. And I know at least I don't. I know I have a plan to do it, but I don't always necessarily follow it. And I've definitely felt it over the past month or so of going through some of these emotional and physical overtraining and overuse issues. So do you ever have any issues with lack of sleep or with too much sleep or anything like that?
I've never had issues with too much sleep. That is non-existent in my life, but the not enough sleep has happened. And I can tell that definitely physically and mentally, it has a huge impact. And so sometimes I forget to prioritize sleep. And then when I remember, because my body and my mind will make me remember, hey, you need to get some sleep. And so then I have to, it might cause me to bump off some events or some things that I had planned, but I know that once I do get that quality sleep, then I am far more productive and I'm just better for myself and for everyone around me once we can check that box.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree. For me, it's, with like all the physical activity and a lot of the mental activity that you and I both do. We didn't mention that Nick is actually also a best-selling author. And yeah, we'll get into that. But we both use our mental cognizance quite a bit. And we have to be present in what we do, and both physically, mentally, emotionally. And if you don't get sleep, it's going to affect you in all of those areas and all of your buckets. And as you said, like your body will tell you. Like I started almost feeling sick, like it affected my immune system when I get to this point. I start feeling just kind of yucky, run down, my body starts getting sore because that lack of sleep, it doesn't give your body enough opportunity to fully recover. So I've noticed it, and also in my connections with other people, which for me, and I believe for you as well, I think our connections and our relationships with other people is a very important aspect of our lives, to have that rich and colorful relationship. And without a proper sleep, I am unable to, or I find it more difficult for me to have a deep connection with those people. So yeah, that I believe that is for me the reason why I think that sleep is very important. I think everybody would probably agree. So yeah, I would just like to go into a little bit of your routine and my routine of what we usually do at night, and kind of just go from there, and then maybe say some tips. So yeah, how does your night usually look with your busy schedule?
So when it's time to sleep, so there's a couple of different things. On an average night, I will start winding it down, and I'll like to listen to some music, some soothing music. I know we've talked about hot showers and cold showers in the past, but I'll do like a hot shower, and then I like to follow it up with a little coldness, but not normally with the cold shower. That cold shower is a morning thing for me. But since it's winter right now, I will open the door to the outside, and then I get everything nice and cooled down. And then I will, I normally, some people, when they get in the bed, they toss and turn and they have a hard time going to sleep. Usually I'm asleep in under 5 minutes, I would say.
Okay. All right.
But I put on, because I have neighbors that work, I guess they're up all night on both sides of me. So I put on this, it's called Chants to Heal 7 Chakras. And so it's got these little chants, and it drowns out any other sound. So it's kind of like my white noise, but there's these soothing chants, and then I am out. And that's pretty much it. It's very simple.
That is a pretty simple routine. When you listen to the music, do you use headphones, or do you have it as an ambient noise from your phone or speakers?
Well, it depends. So some nights I actually have the headphones on, and some nights I just have it just from the speakers. But when I do have the headphones on, usually I don't have the whole night with them on. At some point, I will halfway wake up and I just take them off. And as I take them off, I give them a yank and I unplug the headphones, and then it starts playing through the speakers, and then it just continue. Then I just go back into my sleep, because sometimes I like to sleep. I'll start on my back, but then sometimes I'll sleep over my side, and I can't do that with the type of headphones that I have.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Interesting. So this plays for a longer period of time. How long are these videos usually, or
this is a
soundtrack?
7-hour track.
Okay.
So 7 chakras, and so it's an hour per chakra that they do their little chants for each chakra, I guess.
Okay. All right. Interesting. No, that's interesting. Like hearing what other people do for their sleep, because some people are very strict. Some people just like watch Netflix. Some people go dancing with the stars, or they go and eat, or they work out. So it's interesting to hear what other people do. Do you usually feel refreshed? Because I know you wake up very early in the morning. So do you feel refreshed after you get that sleep?
Yes, usually if I didn't do a lot of drinking the night before, then yes, I almost always feel really great. And if I did do some drinking, then I sometimes still feel pretty good. And other times I say, this is kind of an issue. Sure. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. Like I don't right now, I'm currently not drinking, but in the past, when I did drink maybe a couple beers at night, I feel like I never really get into that deep or REM sleep period where I can fully recover. And I wake up and like, oh man, I feel like my eyes were just shut and I didn't really do anything. So yeah, I definitely know what you mean. So that's good. How many hours do you typically get a night?
I'd say 5 to 6.
5 to 6. Okay. Yeah. All right. I was not anticipating that, to be honest. I figured you would at least get your 7 hours and finish up the chakra music.
Nope.
So,
5 to 6.
okay. All right. And your body is, I know, and everybody's different. Your body is perfectly functioning at 5 or 6 hours of sleep.
Right. That's just, it's grown accustomed to that. And even when I try to sleep longer, it just doesn't happen. I might be able to get a nap in or something to try to make up for it. But even with no alarm, I will just wake up after 5 or 6 hours, and that's just all I get.
Okay. All right. Well, interesting. Anything else that you do? Do you do you have any, you said you make it cold, so there's temperature. Do you do any type of like weighted blankets, or do you any type of like lighting or no lighting, or is it basically like that's your routine and there's nothing really significant to report?
I like to have it dark, but it never gets too dark where I'm at, because I have these giant windows. And then I do have a weighted blanket that I wear, that I use sometimes, but I get really hot when I sleep a lot of times. So it's only on occasion that I break out the weighted blanket. But if I have the weighted blanket, I will be out. I will
Okay.
definitely, it will
Sure.
definitely put me down.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing your routine. I have somewhat similar routine, but and it's from one of our, basically, I didn't really have a routine until a few years ago from one of our also common connections that we have, Craig Valentine. He kind of helped me out with this. And it was really just to kind of structure a perfect day. And what made sense to me was coming up with specific times in our days to do things that were best suited to do them. And for me, I have a lot of things going on all throughout my day, and my head usually gets filled with ideas and ruminations, and I'm constantly thinking about different either business ideas, family situations, emotional occurrences. So I kind of find like at the end of the day, I really need to get into a mindset where I can wind down. So what I've been doing for a couple of years is I have an alarm on my phone that goes off at 8:30 p.m. And that basically tells me that's my bedtime alarm. And it's kind of a reverse of what a lot of people do. I also have a morning alarm, but it starts out at 8:30, and that tells me, okay, now is the time to start trying to wind down, because I would like to go to bed by around like 9:30. So at 8:30, what I do, I get that alarm. It tells me, and hopefully I don't just disregard it. You know, most of the time I try to get on, but then I go and I get my beautiful, what I call my birth control glasses, and I put these on.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I wear these, it's not really at an 8:30 thing. And it shifts throughout the year based on the sunset. And the idea or the premise behind them is, what you do is when the sun goes down, our body's natural reaction is to then start producing melatonin naturally within our bodies. I know a lot of people are taking they're taking melatonin artificially into their body as a natural process, but our bodies through our eyes recognizes that there's no artificial or blue light coming in, at least from what I understand of this. And what I do is after the sun goes down, I put my glasses on, and I try to avoid any direct light outside of the glasses, because this blocks that spectrum of light to enter my eyes. So it produced that melatonin, already kind of settles me down. And then at that point, what I like to do, and I've been failing at this for quite a bit, but I'm trying to be more intentional, is I like to do a gratitude journal. And in that gratitude journal, I always like to try to write down 3 positive things that happened during that day. And it's really helpful in a lot of ways. For one, it causes me to then look through that day, to look back on the day, to think what happened that was good. You know, instead of all these negative ruminations, I think what are the positive things that had occurred, and then I write them down. And the other thing that helps me with is like going into the next day, seeing like, all right, I know I have to write something down in my gratitude journal. What are the positive, what is something positive that happens throughout this day? So I like to do that. And then what I like to do is I like to do a mind dump. So I basically try to take out all of the things that are in my head, the to-dos, and I try to just write the big ticket items down in my journal after the positives. Say, these are the big things. And then I usually try to prioritize them into what's the most important thing that I have to get done tomorrow? Like, what are my to-dos for that day? And I try to put that down. And I find that helpful because then instead of having it retained here or making sure I have to retain it in my head, it's retained in my journal. So I kind of feel a little bit more free. And that's been helping me out quite a bit, not thinking about it and overthinking a lot of things. So, and then of course I do like my hygiene. I like to always, brush my teeth at night, wash my face, make sure that, I'm getting ready for bed. And
I do that too, just for any listeners.
I just wanted to make sure because, you didn't mention it. I was like, is there anything else significant to report? I don't brush my teeth. So look at those shiny whites over there too, just like glaring in the sun at Denver. But yeah, so yeah, I kind of, do that. And then I try to lay down. I try to also get rid of my devices. And if I do, I make sure that the glasses are on. And this is definitely something that I'm lacking on, and I have not been very disciplined in, is turning that phone off and putting it to the other side of the room. I know that you are a big proponent of telling me to do that all the time. Shane, put your phone on the other side of the room and don't pick it up. Just go to sleep. Cause I know I'm like constantly like, oh, what about this? What's going on? What's my training look like tomorrow? Who else did training? So, but yeah, so that's basically my routine. And then I usually just lay down. I try to go to bed around like 9 to 9:30. Try to wake up around like 5 o'clock the next morning. That's kind of what I get. I like to shoot for like 7.5 hours of sleep. And that usually is where my body is best fit. There's like this weird window that if I get less than 7 hours, I am really crappy the next day. And if I get more than like 8 hours, like 8.5 hours, I'm really crappy. I don't know what the deal is, but that's just kind of how it feels. So, but yeah, that's basically my routine. And it works quite well when I follow it. And I don't always follow it, as you know, as my confidant. So yeah, so that's kind of where it's at. So you have anything else about the routines before I get into a couple more tips?
Yeah, on the turning your ringer off and setting your phone across the room, that's a big deal, because if you have it right next to you, even if the ringer's off, you might think of something. Like there's a meme out there that, you're laying in bed and then you think, hey, do cows sleep standing up? And then you go, I don't know. Then you have to go and look it up, So if you don't have it right next to you, or if you say, I wonder if this person's Instagram has whatever, and then you can grab it and it'll distract you. But if you know it's across the room, you're not going to get out of bed and look at it. So it'll help you just settle in.
It's kind of like not having the cookies or chips in your pantry, right? It's like the same type of thing. Because if they're there, you're going to get it. If your phone's there, you're going to check it. Just avoid it, put it in the other area. And all of us know this, but how many of us actually do it and prioritize sleep? So right. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. And I'm certainly going to try to be more intentional about this, because I do realize that this is one of my buckets. I actually have it in my bucket listing, is sleep, wellness, and sleep health. So yeah. But yeah, so basically I just kind of want to go into some other quick things. And you mentioned one of them. So as far as like the sleep tips, I would really suggest like doing some type of a sleep alarm. And a lot of my tips are obviously things that I'm trying to do. And one of them is like that sleep alarm. I think that is good to either like set a time where in your head where this is when you're going to start winding down. Like if you have kids, you already, all right, for the kids at 7:30 or 7 o'clock, we're going to start with, the bedtime routine where you actually have it listed out and this is what you're going to do. You're going to start taking your bath. You're going to get your lotion on. You're going to brush your teeth. You're going to read your book. I think that's good for everybody to have that structure in place, to know like what you're doing and just make it a routine where it happens every single time. I would say so. I also think that I don't do it every day, but that mind dump gratitude journal, I think that is really, really important for a lot of people, especially when they're kind of high achieving type of maybe elite level people, because they always have things going on. Like for you example, you have so many different business ideas and so much thought process going on. I think it would be really important for a lot of people to really just get that out of their head before they go to sleep. So, and then also, yeah, the whole devices, removing the devices from our area and not having that capability and access to them. and also the light. I'm a really big proponent of removing any type of artificial light at night, because I just feel like, also from more of like a holistic standpoint, as far as like having artificial light, that's not what our bodies naturally need. And I'm not going to be the medical doctor here. I'm going to let you go and look at your own scientific evidence on this. But there's a lot of evidence to show that that artificial blue light at night does not allow your body to naturally produce the melatonin. And I would just advise people to go look at that themselves and see what those risks are of having that artificial light in their body. Creating your to-do lists, and also making time for, so another one is making time for not necessarily deep connections or conversations, but maybe even like intimate time with a spouse. Like, I think that's pretty important. It doesn't really have anything to do specifically with sleep, but as far as like planning that in with your partner, like just having like an intimate hand holding or time when you're laying next to them, maybe not getting into like a super deep conversation, and also maybe not getting freaky time, because who wants to get freaky with this, right? But just like making time for that, of, you know, being intimate or potentially having, sexy time or whatever else. I think that that's important for our overall well-being, and that's generally in this time frame as well, like in this sleep routine. And then one last thing that I would say about, you mentioned it. So I do the same thing. Like when I have really bad or high stressful anxiety days, I also do a chakra sleep meditation. It's funny you said that. Mine's from this guy, Jason Stevenson. I think he's Australian. Yes. And it goes through the same thing. Like it says, the chakras from, you know, all the way from your crown down to, you know, the bottom of your being, where it just goes through each one, and you're releasing the emotion, the physical energy and the emotional energy that's trapped inside of them, you know, through tensing and releasing and breathing. And I think that that's really important. And I would share mine. Like I'll share it actually on the page, like the one that I use. And if you use one specifically too, if you'd send it over, that would be great. That's 7 hour. So, but that's really like the tips that I have to help with sleep. And I'm going to try to be more intentional about getting better sleep myself. Do you have any other tips that you would add that you haven't said already?
On your thing about the light, I did find out that, because, you know, earlier I said I'll sleep maybe 5 or 6 hours, but if I'm in a hotel and they have the blackout curtains,
oh yeah,
like completely dark, like in Las Vegas or something, I can sleep for 10 hours.
Oh man,
because
okay.
I don't know what time it is or anything, because like here, the sun it'll start getting light or something like that, or I'll just kind of naturally start waking up. But if it's completely dark, even if I start waking up, I just go, oh, it has to be midnight or something. I'll just go back to sleep. And it could really be 8 in the morning, and I'm going to sleep. And so in those scenarios, if I had a completely dark sleep place every night, I have no idea how long I would naturally just sleep in those conditions.
Sure. Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think light really definitely hinders or helps depending on what you're trying to do in all sorts of situations, even in the morning. You know, you mentioned some of like the cold showers. We'll talk about that in a different video, but yeah, absolutely. I think light is very important. Some people prefer actually having a light on, or some people say my routine is I like to watch TV until I go to bed, or they want a fan on. So it's interesting to find out. And I think it's important for each person individually to know what works best for them, you know, so that they do feel fully functioning and fully energized and refreshed when they wake up. So
yes.
Yeah. So trying to go through my little list here. I think that's everything. I'm glad to know that you brush your teeth. I think that's one, and that you get good sleep. So I think that is all of it. So yeah, I really appreciate you talking to me today and just like coming up and having the conversation. So, oh, one more thing, one more tip. If you have the opportunity to, not you, but anybody, I've seen that you also have a Fitbit on your arm. It's a good way to actually have objective metric measurable data to see how you are sleeping. You know, you use a Fitbit, I use a Garmin, but it gives you the opportunity to really look at like how your sleep was that night. Like, were you awake often? Were you moving around? Did you have good deep sleep, REM sleep based on your heart patterns? So I think that's really helpful. And, you know, you can get a lot of these Fitbits for under $100 now, and it will help you out with just getting a good measurable objective view of how your sleep is. So that's the last tip that I would have. So
all right,
So yeah, I know that I wanted to keep this short, and like always, I talk forever. So I appreciate you sticking it out with me, and I look forward to future conversations. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I really
Everybody out there, get some sleep.
get some sleep. All right. Well, thank you, Nick, and we'll talk to you again.
All right.
All right.